bit more. So, do what?
We'll make it.
We'll make it work. It's fine. Right now, we're already down to, I've lost 3 in here, is that right?
3 in here.
3 in here, and I've lost 2 in 5th block, or maybe 3 in 5th block. Plus Kara West is going to take AP Euro, so I'm losing her. So we're down to 38 already. We were at 44. We're down to 38. We'll be down. You know, if some kids don't pass first trimester, you know, then we'll get them out. All right. Let's talk about the growing West. All right. Let's talk about Western states in general. Western states are much, much more diverse than Southern and Northern states. Why are Western states more diverse, do you think?
I'm sorry, more people find better land opportunities as they go west.
Well, okay. Well, everyone is going to be trying to find opportunity, right? So there isn't a cultural stratification already built in, right? When you go out west, it's sort of a blank slate. So that is more opportunity for people of different backgrounds. That doesn't just mean, you know, different races, but it can also be different religions, different ethnicities, things like that.
Are you talking about west of Mississippi, or like the?
Well, just wherever the frontier is, right? Because the frontier continues to move. Does that make sense? But the West has always been more diverse. In fact, and cowboy movies suck at this, but the West had a huge Hispanic population. 20% of cowboys were African American. And then you had some white people. In fact, white people were oftentimes in the minority in certain areas, unless you watch like a John Wayne film and it's a bunch of honkies, right? But for the most part, it's pretty diverse. Many Western states also relied heavily on the federal government because they needed federal money to set themselves up and get improvements. This is going to be really important, by the way. Think about this for the future. Western states are favoring the federal government. When will this become hyper important? Civil War. Very good. Why will it become Civil War, Mom? Why will that be important?
Because they're deciding.
Absolutely, Mom. They're going to be more likely to side with the Union. They're going to have more cultural ties and economic ties to the Union. Very good answer. All right. As we're moving this way, what's going to be happening to our Native Americans? They're going to be either being pushed further west, or we're going to start getting more and more and more Native American wars. So Native Americans are going to be in conflict more with whites because of land issues. Transportation is going to be a big thing. We're going to have all the, in fact, one of the essays in your next test is about the transportation revolution. We got canals and steamboats and on rivers now, because now rivers used to be like one way, right? You went downstream. Then you had to walk back up. Or you had a keel boat where you went about 1 mile an hour and had to do this all the way back up to Mississippi, which is really sucky. Do what? It's like Corey Sayer strong. I know. Maybe even stronger than that, being able to push a whole boat. You know I'm kidding when I say that, right? Sort of. And then let's see. And then finally, the last transportation. What's the last transportation that's going to really connect everything?
Trains.
Choo-choos, right? Love trains. All right. So I said the two biggest issues going on during Monroe was, one, the Panic of 1819, which we sort of panic danced for. And 2 is going to be the Missouri Compromise. And this is wildly important. The Missouri Compromise is wildly important. In fact, I have a new map. Ooh, this is a good map for it. It's there. Yeah, map. Well, it's really important, but you can use as states now. Yes. Can you guys see that over there? Sort of. All right. I'm trying to get Jackers in. Jack Spratt. You see that now, Jack Spratt? All right. My godson's name is Jack. We call him Jack Spratt.
I'm sorry.
All right. The Missouri Compromise was all about the issue of slavery. Okay. The extension of slavery and the movement of slavery. As it stood, 1820, there were 22 states. 11 were free states, 11 were slave states. So in the Senate, there was a balance, right? Who do you think had more representation in the House? Free states or slave states, and why, Warford?
Free states,
I can't hear you.
free states, slaves.
Okay, you're right about free states, although I don't understand what your explanation means. JCI, why did free states have high representation? It's a much easier answer than you're overanalyzing it. That's kind of what you were getting at, right? No, it's even easier than that. They just have more people. They just have more people. Definitely, Warford and JCL, you're right. The South didn't get to count a slave as a full person in representation, but they just had more people, right? They had more cities. The North has always had more people than the South. And since they were having more representation in the House of Representatives, it was becoming feared that if there wasn't a balance between free and slave states, free states would start to outvote slave states in the Senate, right? Because how many senators does each state get? 2. Okay. Well, there was this bill that came out called the Talmadge Amendment. Missouri had asked to become a state. In 1819, Missouri had asked to become a state. And they wanted to be a slave state. And the Talmadge Amendment was passed. The Talmadge Amendment said that the slaves that were already in Missouri could stay there, but slavery would be eventually like emancipated. Like the slaves that were there would be slaves, but then over time those kids would be free, right? So slavery would begin to dissolve. I guess that's what I was looking for. Slavery would begin to dissolve. Jefferson said this could be a fire bell in the night. He said this could be bad. Why would it be bad for slave states in general?
Because that would mean that they would start losing their workforce.
Okay, well, as it said right now, it's just going to be Missouri where this was the case.
But they were scared that Missouri would eventually become a free state, which would...
Well, but think beyond Missouri. If you're a slave state and you pass this law where slaves begin to be emancipated over time, what is the fear? It's going to happen to them, right? The slippery slope argument. It's going to happen to them. So they were like, no, we're not doing that. It failed in the Senate. Talmadge Amendment failed in the Senate. And it looked like this was going to be a deadlock. What do? Now this issue of slavery is becoming the big issue, and now we're talking about it. Right? Forever Americans weren't talking about it much as a legal issue. Now we're talking about slavery. And Henry Clay, who becomes known later as the Great Compromiser, comes up with his first big compromise. The Compromise of 1820 is oftentimes also known as the Missouri Compromise. And what this essentially says is this. Number 1, Missouri will enter the Union as a slave state. So Missouri is going to be a slave state. But what will be the problem with this if you're a Northerner?
You don't want it to be a substitute.
Well, yeah. It's uneven, right? It's imbalanced. Very good, Cassidy. So Missouri is a slave state, but Maine will become a free state. So Missouri's free, Missouri's slave, Maine is free. And there was one more line. From this point on, slavery would never be north of the 3630 line, which is actually the southern border of Missouri. So while slavery is in Missouri, Kentucky, Virginia, right, which is above the 3630, from this point on, slavery can never be above that southern border. The extension of slavery. We cannot extend slavery further north than the 3630 line. Yes? JC, you had a question? Okay. So slavery cannot extend past the 3630 line, and this is it. Now, this is going to be an possibly important law. It's going to be part of what we're going to be talking about for the next month and a half. Okay? So, what's the legacy of this? First of all, this lasted for 34 years. This basically, one can argue,
Lasted how long?
34 years. One can argue this kept us from civil war longer. Because this agreement essentially became codified. Both sides looked at this as set in stone. Also, now that slavery is becoming an issue over the Missouri Compromise, you start to really see sectionalism. And the South begins to dig in their heels and fight against any sort of northern aggression, whether it's tariffs, anti-slave stuff, all of it. Slavery becomes up front the biggest issue. And Southern states' rights people are going to be arguing that it's their Southern state right to have the freedom to have slaves, as ironic as that may sound. And Clay becomes not only the great compromiser, but many people thought he was an appeaser. That he was giving you, what's appeasement mean?
Giving somebody what they want.
If I'm coaching Bailey and I sit her on the bench because she's playing bad, and she's like, oh my God, I'll play again. Please let me play. Please let me play. I promise I'll play good. And I'm finally like, all right, shut up, go and play. And she starts sucking again. I've given in to her, right? Which means every time from now on, she knows if she just complains loud enough, she'll get in the game. When I was coaching, I'd never play her. But you play freshman. Freshman volleyball is what you do when I play. That's it.
That's right.
Do what?
That's right.
Reagan plays 7th grade. She's going down to middle school, you're going down to freshman grade. Alright. Are there questions on Missouri Compromise, Panic of 1819, or the American system? These three things are just wildly important. And you will see these on the AP exam all over the map. The American system, the Panic of 1819, Missouri Compromise are huge. JCI.
Is there anything specific we need to let know about the Cumberland Road or Steamboat?
Oh, the Cumberland Road is an example of a road moving west. This is just an example of as we're moving west, we're starting to build more roads and stuff. I'm actually going to get more into that when we talk about transportation next week. You guys are going to be in front of first block pretty solid, or fifth block pretty solid, because tomorrow fifth block is having the Greek games. So tomorrow will actually be a whole day ahead by the end of the day tomorrow. Yeah. So listen, look at your packet. Tomorrow we're going to do all the judicial nationalism stuff. We'll finish this, and we're actually going to be getting into like early Jacksonian period already. So that's good. Yes.
Since they got a review aid the last essay test, we should get one since we're going to be ahead of them.
If you